When I was 14 years old, I was walking home from a friend's house. It was around 6 p.m. All of a sudden, I got this really bad vibe and I turned around to see a man following me. I crossed to the other side of the street, being the paranoid kid I was, only to see he had followed me. At this point, I was getting nervous and I looked around the neighborhood for any convenience stores, etc. Instead, I just found blocks of residential apartments and empty streets. I was freaking out now as the man got in closer and I began to sprint. The man began to sprint after me and was quickly gaining on me due to my size. I thought I was going to die and all I was thinking in my head was, I'm going to be killed. I kept sprinting, but I knew he was going to catch up to me soon, so I slowed down. I began to slow my pace. As he gained on me, I abruptly dropped to my knees. The man flew over me and hit the pavement. I got up quickly and kicked him in the nuts as hard as I could. I then sprinted past the stunned man and to the nearest subway station. The station employees noticed I was visibly shaken and walked over to see what was wrong. I told them the story and they immediately called the police. It turned out the man matched the description of a serial child rapist and murderer. I've never been so terrified in my life, and I thought I was dead for sure. I was honestly going off what I had seen in a movie in terms of my self-defense and didn't think it would actually work. I was moving and driving cross country in my car, which was an old Mercedes with 3 wheels in the grave. I loved that gas guzzler. I was a young lady in my mid-20s traveling from Arizona to Washington. It's been about 13 years now, so I can't really remember which state I was in at the time. On my second night, I decided to pull off the highway and settle in next to a cornfield. About an hour after shutting my eyes, I hear a knock on the window. A man was standing outside my window with a light shining in my eyes. I assumed it was a cop and went to crack my window. I've never been more grateful to have a delayed crack in my life. As I gave it a full turn, the window only moved slightly, but I stopped when I realized the man next to my window was trying to get his fingers through. Startled by this behavior and fully awake now, I put my hand up to block the light. I was surprised to see a young man in a blue jean jacket. It was not a cop. I asked him what he wanted through the still closed window. He turned his head to the side and looked behind my car at something. I looked in the rear view and didn't see anything. It was too dark. He pounded on my window, making me jump. He lowered the light so I could see him gesture. He wanted me to roll the window down. Now that I could see more of him, I saw that he had a lettered farmhand glove. He was blonde with stringy, greasy locks, rubbed off a look of a hard outdoors man. I assumed that I had parked on his land and now he was chasing me off. "Do you want me to go?" I shouted. He shook his head no and gestured for me to roll down the window again. I was confused at this point. Why wasn't he talking? Why does he want the window down so badly? Maybe he was hard of hearing. As dense as I was at the age, I learned not to trust men when I was alone. I shook my head no and gestured to go. At this, he smiled with crooked stained teeth and looked at the back of the car again. This time I screamed as he started hitting my window with the flashlight while frantically trying to open the locked door. I turned the key to my car and it roared to life. Something hit the back of my car and that made the rear bounce. I looked back to see 3 other figures highlighted by the red brake light. I had enough and peeled out. I looked back to see the blonde do a cartoonish "aw damn" gesture. I hit the highway and didn't stop until I was surrounded by traffic. When I pulled off and I went to check the damage, there was a little dent between the bumper and the trunk, and that was it. I chalked it up to locals scaring out of the towners. I was scared. It was so random, and no house was inside of the field. When I told my friend, he said that they might have been trying to pop the trunk, but since my car was an old tank, it stayed shut. Either way, I always lock my doors when I'm in the car for any reason. So when I was around 24, I moved to Minnesota to live with my at the time girlfriend, now ex for unrelated reasons. Well, she had 3 children already from a previous relationship. One night, in the middle of winter, her daughter woke us up to tell us she had forgotten to put her clothes in the dryer for school the next day, and it included her snow clothes. She was young, maybe 9. She didn't want to go down into the basement in the middle of the night. So I decided to be nice and let my at the time girlfriend sleep and went down to put the clothes in the dryer. Now, the only light to the basement had burned out earlier in the day, so I had to use the dim light from my phone to light my way as I went down and started switching the clothes over to the dryer. I soon felt what felt like our dog rub itself behind my legs, since a lot of times he liked sleeping in the basement under the stairs. I reached back and stroked his fur, and soon continued to put the rest of the clothes in the dryer and started up. I hear the dog move back to the basement under the stairs where he slept, and shrugged before moving back upstairs into the bedroom, where I found our dog on the bed. Confused, I asked my then girlfriend how long he had been up there. She said her son had brought him into the room shortly after I went into the basement since he was growling and scratching at the door. She said as soon as he got into the room, he laid on the bed in a very protective manner. Well, when I went to move him, still pretty confused about what happened, he started to growl at me, something that was very rare since that dog loved me as much as I loved him. So I shrugged and went to sleep on the sofa in the living room that happened to be located right over the basement. Throughout the night, I had an extremely creeped out feeling. Nothing else happened that night. However, I never went down in the basement at night without a working light after that. To this day, I don't know what that was, and honestly, I don't want to.